engineer, Mr. Joe Pagano, and our Joe Pagano and Joe Marmolejo. Today we got Joe Marmolejo with us, and and we want to thank our webmaster, Mr. Joel Strouser, and my co-host and producer, Michael. But we have a special guest with us here today. It's very talented man with many different talents. He was a cameraman on many of the big TV shows that were on for years. Wide World of Sports is one that I know of right now. He's going to give us tell us a little bit more about himself. He's also a radio host. He's got his own radio show, and he's just got many talents. So, and his name is Mr. Bill McLeod. He's going to be with us here after our break. Okay, so before we get started, I want to remind you something that is very important, I believe, for me and for, I believe, all of you out there, that if you know anybody who suffers with any type of heart problems, slow heartbeat, fast heartbeat, irregular heartbeat, experiencing any type of dizziness or anything like that related to the heart, or if you know anybody, or if you have any problems with that, I want to highly recommend the brilliant Dr. Duong. Okay, he's an electrophysiologist. He's up to the latest technologies of the heart, and I mean the latest technology of the heart. You got to just check him out. I'm going to give you his number. His number is 877-773-8664. That's 877-773-8664. Okay? Check it out. Okay, first of all, for all you new listeners, I want to kind of give you an idea of what we talk about here, what we teach, and that is something very basic and very simple. Human nature. What is human nature? What I'm talking about here, human nature, is what all of us have. Every human being who has ever walked this earth, and anybody who is ever going to walk this earth, we're all the same in this sense. We have free will, which means that you can think about whatever you want. You're free to think anything that you want. You can think all the negative, all the positive that you want. It's all up to you. You're free to do it. But here's the thing. Whatever you decide to focus on is what you are going to create as an experience in your life. Whatever you are experiencing, you're going to create the circumstances that match what you think about. You will create what you think, and that is our nature, and that is something that we cannot change. There is nothing that you can do about it. So that's why we believe it's so important that you learn it, that you understand what your nature is. So important in your life. Okay, let's get into our topic today. Our topic today is the Alpha and the Omega. Now, I just want you to understand, we're not going to get into anything religious, okay? It's got nothing to do with religion, what we talk about here today, about the Alpha and the Omega, all right? What the Alpha is the first, and the Omega is the last, or we can say the finished product. But how does a finished product get here? What is the thing that is the actual form, the thing that has taken form, is caused by the first cause, which is thought, or the Alpha. Okay, the Alpha is the first, the Omega is the last, the finished product. Okay, first of all, you need to think about this for a little bit. Everything was produced by thought. Everything that you can see around you was produced by thought, which also means your problems and your limitations, all caused by thought, okay? And you know, when I have conversations with people, and people seem, for whatever reason, to not believe these concepts, it makes it pretty obvious that people expose their ignorance to the creative process when they don't believe what it is that we talk about here. That all they're doing is exposing their ignorance to this topic. And many people will continue on with their negativity. Think about it. People don't want to listen, don't want to pay attention to what we do talk about, which is nothing but the truth. That's why we call this Truth Only Show. But yet some people refuse to listen. But what they will do, continue on in their life thinking the negative and creating the negative and then complaining about what they're experiencing. Think about it. Now I know our listeners aren't some of those, because I believe we have the most intelligent listeners in the world, because they are paying attention to their nature. They are beginning to transform things, beginning to create great things in their lives. That's a fact. Now, I'm going to give you one example of the Alpha and the Omega, so you can understand it. It's actually very simple. Okay, this is very simple. It's a simple concept because everything in life is produced in this way. I'm going to give you an example of an architect, for example. Okay, the architect will sit down and he'll ponder, he'll think about what type of house he's going to design. Okay, he'll put a lot of time at thinking about it. And many times he'll have maybe, let's say, the owners giving him ideas as to what he wants to, what they want produced. So they get together with their thoughts. They think about what it is they want to produce. So what I'm explaining to you right now is the Alpha, the beginning, the first cause of that house. Okay, it is the first. It is the Alpha. Okay, the thought process that goes into building, designing that house. Okay, now, of course, there are processes and steps that have to go on after they come up with an idea. Of course, there's a process. You need to. It needs to. After they have the idea, they begin to produce the blueprints. They produce the blueprints, and then the process continues on. It is a process. Now you get all the different trades that do their part in putting the house up. So as long as everybody is following the Alpha or the idea or the concept, as long as everybody follows through with it, eventually what you will have is the Omega, which is the finished product, which is the house. So in this sense, we can say the Alpha is the thought process that the architect goes through. The Omega is the house, the final product that is produced. So now going back to what I said earlier, that I said everything is produced by thought. Now, is it getting a little clearer? Does it make sense? This is just common sense. We're not talking anything strange or mysterious. It's just common sense. That is the creative process. Okay? You have the Alpha, you have the Omega. Okay? Now, I want to tell you something that I know many of you are going to question, because there is perfection in thought. In other words, thought is perfect. Thought is always creating something. It is a perfect process. So now, I know many of you, I know I have, religions, with their ignorance, say we're flawed, that we're imperfect. I know all of you have heard it before. We are all flawed and we're imperfect. But how can that be if thought is perfect? There's a big contradiction there, because if you're experiencing negative things in your life, it's because you're thinking negative. That's perfect to me. So if you're experiencing a lot of good in your life, it's because you are thinking the good. Where's the imperfection? Why? Because we go out, because many people go out and commit crimes, and we have murders, and we have all, problems like that. Does that make a human being imperfect? No. Because exactly what he thinks about is what he creates, or what he follows through with is because of his thoughts. So it's still perfect. But we've been told so many times that man is flawed, man is imperfect. So we tend to take our thoughts in that direction, in the negative direction. So we think about all the negative, and then we can't understand why we continue to create all the problems that we have, because we continue to think the negative, because we're believing all these lies about us. That's all it is. We're believing a bunch of lies that have been told about us. Because remember, we're talking about the Alpha and the Omega. We're talking about the first, or the cause, and the result, or the finished product. And that's true in everything. That's what these terms, that's how they came up with these terms, the Alpha and the Omega. Which means, when we're talking about human beings, we're still in the process of becoming better. That's why we create a lot of problems, because we're still in the process. Like I said, the architect, they think about the house, they put all their thought into it, they finally design the house, and it's a process to get there. There's a lot of work to be done to get to the finished product. Human beings are good. I'm going to repeat that. Human beings are good, but we're all in the process of becoming better. Some are a little further along than others. Some have less work to do. Others have a lot of work to do. But we're all in a process. And until you begin to learn this and understand it and begin to put these principles in practice, you will remain struggling, remain having a lot of problems. You will continue to have many problems in your life, is because you're not continuing with the process of becoming better. And there are no limitations, because thought creates form. Everything's created by thought. Creates form. Now, feelings give power to thought. I mean, I think you've experienced that. When you slowly get into a little negative conversation with somebody, and the argument, a little argument begins to start. The reason many arguments get so powerful, because feelings start getting into the picture. Once you get the feelings in there, there's a lot of power in that thought. Okay? Think about it. The more feelings you put into it, the more power there is in thought. So now that you understand that feelings are so important when it comes to the creative process, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Creating the creative process with feelings and creative process without feelings. I'll give you an example. An engineer, for example, he puts his part into the house for the structure, to make sure that the structure will be strong enough. What size post you got to use, how much concrete you got to put into the house, what types of concrete, the strength of the concrete, the size, like I said, of post, and the beams that it takes to build that house. See, the engineer doesn't necessarily have to put any feelings in it. He's got to do his calculations and make sure that everything he's putting into the house is proper. and he will do his part. He will do his part, and he doesn't necessarily have to put feelings behind it. He's got to do the right calculations to be able to hold up the structure. So he can create that, he can contribute to that house and not necessarily put feelings behind it, okay? Now, when I'm talking about feelings, of having power with the feelings, which this is different now. An artist or a musician is where feelings are really required. The more feelings an artist or a musician puts into his creativity, the greater will be his product. Feelings are very, very important to the artist. Remember, I said not necessary for the engineer, but very important for the artist, for the creativity that an artist needs. There must be feeling, and the more feeling, the greater the power. So, what are we talking about here? What are we dealing with? Or let me put it this way. What we are really dealing with here in this whole topic, this whole conversation, is ourselves. That's what we're talking about, ourselves. We explained the alpha and the omega, the first and the last. And if you just look around, everything that exists around you went through that process. The alpha and the omega. Somebody had to think it to produce it. Right? So, if you think about your life, you are the creator of your life. You are the creator. Up to this point in your life, whatever you're experiencing, the conditions in your life, you had the final say-so. You may have allowed others to do your thinking for you, which happens, I think, way too much. We allow our politicians do our thinking for us. We just go along with what they say. We believe everything they say. Okay? So then we create whatever type of experiences they're trying to get us to create. They're using you, in other words. Your religious leaders. You may be allowing them to do your thinking for you instead of thinking it for yourself. Many, many, many people also do that. But if you understand what we just talked about today, the alpha and the omega is what you are producing. Your thoughts produce things. So I'm sure you've heard this before. Thoughts are things. I mean, you should look at it that way. You should begin to think about it a little bit more. What are you producing? Remember what we said about your nature? That you cannot change. There's nothing you can do to change it. Nothing. You have free will. What you choose to think about, you will create. Okay? That's simple. All right, don't go away. We're going to take a little short break here, and I just want to remind you that you're listening to KCAA 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM on the Truth Only Show, where we give you nothing but the truth. You can find us at truthonlyshow.com. Don't go away. We have a special guest with us today, Mr. Bill McLeod. We'll be right back.
Every time I sing this song, I sing for my Georgia. Oh, Georgia. Get it all way through. This old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Lord, oh, Georgia, yeah. Oh, Georgia. And the song of you comes as sweet and clear as moonlight through the pines. Other arms reach out to me, yeah. Other eyes smile tenderly, yeah. Still hidden peaceful dreams I see, oh, I know the wrong, oh, indeed, back to you. Georgia, no, 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 peace I find. It's this old sweet song that keeps Georgia on my mind. Let me say, other arms reach out to me. Other eyes smile, yeah, tenderly. Well, all right now, don't you know, still in peaceful dreams I see Mr. Road, the road leads back to you, babe. Whoa. Just this old sweet song. I said, oh, I said, keep Georgia on my mind. We're on my mind, yeah, on my mind. It's this old sweet song.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Truth Only Show here on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and 102.3 FM. We are here going to discuss this topic today. Why don't you introduce our guest?
Yeah, I got no.
At all. Our guest today is Bill McLeod. He's a returner here. You've been on the show a few times now.
Yeah.
And how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing just fine. I'm glad to be here. I always like to come to this show. One reason why I
There you are.
really enjoy being here. You hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, this is high technology, everybody.
Yeah, I know.
All right. But anyway, I'm very glad to be here. I'm always glad to be here. I am so impressed with Dave because I know he loves the people that he's speaking to.
Yeah.
He pays his own money to do the show. I mean, he goes out of his way to make sure that you hear this message. That's got to be phenomenal for a person to do that. That is real love when I think about it. Because, you know, my definition of love is helping other people to be all they can be.
Right.
That's what love is, and that's my definition and only, and that's why I really admire him so much and really look up to him in a certain way, because that is tremendous in this day and age for a person to go out of his way to try to get a point across to people. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Hey, Joe, why don't
Can you give me a little volume on this?
yeah, let's check that mic. So what were you thinking while he was giving his talk today? What were your thoughts?
I had a few thoughts, and I wrote some things down. Alpha and Omega. Alpha is the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Omega is the ending.
Yes.
And I guess that's true for all of us in all our lives. And the part about us, when we're coming in this world, and what I've learned, in case somebody don't know it, I'll just tell you right now before we say it later. I'm 88 years old, so I've seen a lot. and I haven't been sitting down just living. I've been reading, I've been learning, I've been wanting to educate myself. I want to know the truth. The truth is very important, I think, for a person to know and to live, because that's the only way you can really get the full meaning of life and living and being free. Mm-hmm. And so with this program, I was thinking about, we have been tricked. We have been tricked.
In what way are you talking about?
We have been tricked in most of the things that we learn when we come to this society from a child up. We've been told a lot of things that don't really work for us. Mm-hmm. And what Dave has a problem is he's trying to counter that. And so when people have been believing something for a long time, most people don't want to hear that I've been wrong all these years.
Yeah.
They just don't want to hear it. So there is a little bit of confusion. That's what I've learned. They don't want to say that they're wrong or that there's something else. Mm-hmm. They only do that is when they get into trouble and they realize that they got to find another solution to their problem. Well, today, this is an opportunity for you to get that solution. And that's what I was thinking about when I was thinking about Alpha and Omega. Because a lot of people, they don't really understand the whole idea of living and knowing the truth. They don't even know what it is. So this is like beautiful. So
what are most people doing then, in your opinion?
I think most people are just biding time.
Really?
Yeah, most people, I say majority of the people, when they talk about 2% of the people have all the wealth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? That means 2 of the people or they just picked out to have the wealth, or they able to think through the problem, or did they have a parent who was able to help them to really realize where they were right and where they were wrong? In your case, you have a parent, and you're very lucky to have him, mm-hmm. and he's able to tell you things that are valuable. And I don't know how you would take it or how people would take it. I've raised my 5 children. They're all good in life, but I use these principles to try and tell them something. It's like a way of tough love, and it works. So that's what I was thinking about. So how many people go through life and never even realize why they're here?
Why did you decide to talk about this today?
Well, I mean, I study every day, right? Every single day I put out a few hours a day every day trying to learn more, trying to understand more. So each week, the reason this topic came, because that was the idea that hit me early in the week, like Monday or Tuesday. Mm-hmm. That was the idea that just struck me about the Alpha and Omega. I heard the term somewhere. I don't know where I heard it. Uh-huh. I heard Alpha and Omega, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I think it needs to be clarified what that is.
And I think that's a good opportunity. Let's do that right now. So the Alpha and Omega, when you were talking about that, you mean the creative process. Now, what does the creative process mean? I feel like there's a lot of terms that we talked about today that need to be simplified. You're basically saying that what you think about is what you create.
Right.
That's what the whole topic is.
Thought, and then there's the form. The result is the form that you create. And you're thinking all the time. Here, you're thinking form all the time. When it comes to your exterior world, you're thinking form. You're thinking about your car. You're thinking about your house. You're thinking about your money. Yeah. So you're thinking form, and the type of form that you think is what you experience. And actually experience it, even money. I mean, even money. I know this may seem hard for people, but if you're thinking limited amounts of money all the time, you will continue to have limited amounts of money. That's what Bill was mentioning about the 2% that have all this money. They don't think limited amounts.
Right.
Well, it's here. Let me put it this way. Let me see if I can, if this makes a little sense. A rich man doesn't get up every day thinking about his poverty, how poor he is. That can't be.
Well, but they would say, well, he doesn't think about that because he's not poor.
It's not the point. I mean, that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, what is he thinking? He's rich. He's thinking those types of thoughts. Okay?
Yeah.
Regardless of how it came about, let's forget about how it came about. He thinks that way. But the point is, he's thinking, continues to think that way, and continues to be rich. Now, a poor man doesn't get up in the morning and think about all this money, a lot of money. He doesn't think that way. So the point is this: you have to think it to create it. That's why we said the Alpha and the Omega. Thoughts create form. Our physical world is created by form. It's not any different than the architect. That's why I gave the example of the architect. The architect is thinking and thinking about that house, and then he begins to design it on a piece of, and then it goes through the process. It's not magic. We're not talking magic here. There's a process that had to go through to produce the house. But as long as you continue on with the process, you will have that house. As long as you don't stop the process. People's problem is, they let's say, for example, they'll go to a motivational speaker. They're all excited. Now they're thinking, oh, wealth, and they're thinking that. But they're the ones that stop the process. The motivational speaker gave him all the right information, but they stop it. They'll get the tapes or put them away in a closet, and they'll sit there for forever. And they're not listening to him. They're not following through with the process. And then they say it doesn't work.
Right. That's true.
It works.
Right. It works. I would like to say I know that it works. And I can give everybody something that they can use to test to see if it would work. And that was one reason why I wanted to come on the show. And I learned this from Dave, and I've used it. Here's the simple thing. Like you say, some people get up and don't think about they don't think that they have money or whatever it is, because they create the conditions for them to think. The way to get out of it and have anything you want, anybody can do it. I'm going to give you some simple steps that I've learned from Dave right here, just listening to the show and just talking with him, and this is what I've learned. And I did it. I was in financial troubles. Sometime about 3 years ago. And so what I did, he said one thing: live within your means. Now, if you're rich, maybe you think you have money all the time. And you say when you're poor, you can't think. Yes, you can. If you live within your means, you don't know shortage. You don't know limits. What a person should do, put down all the bills that they have to pay, and then put down your income. Add your bills up and add your income up. Now, you know you need to not go over what your income is. Now, you may say, well, I can't buy this and I can't buy this. That's true. You can buy it at that time.
That's true.
But if you practice this lesson by paying your bills on time, never going over your limit, never let, the old saying is about the month was so long until my money ran out. Never let the money run out. Always keep a certain amount, and that's what I did. I haven't filled out any application to go to work. I'm too old to even think about it. Yet, I'm solvent now. I have money. I have a bank account. I'm saving, and I did everything broke. And the only thing I did was use these principles.
So the amount of money you were getting didn't change?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it did change.
I got a lot more money. I got a lot more money, but just by using that principle.
Changing your thoughts about money.
Yeah, so I didn't wake up in the morning because I don't run out of money. So I never think about what I don't have because I always have some extra money. And so at first I was just tell my wife, I said, you know what? We got $42 left at the end of the month. And then by keep working that principle, it got so we got $300 at the end of the month. So I kept working the principle. I can save $400. I went up to 400, and now it's going up even further. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Wait,
yeah.
Just try that one thing. And
Tell us what did you tell him to do? I got some of it, but I didn't get the whole thing.
Well, basically, I just told him that you like when I started learning, one of the first things that I'll give you his name. He was very influential in my life. His name is Kevin Sorrell. There might be some listeners out there that know who he is, but he said one very simple thing, a couple of simple things to me.
Yeah.
And I just put them into practice by my thoughts, okay? My thought world. That's what I put into practice. I didn't go change anything else in my physical world. I just changed my thoughts, okay? First of all, he says, get $100 bill and put it in your wallet and don't touch it, okay? Because now when you're...
I remember when you said that.
Now when you're feeling like you don't have money, you'll remember, because you begin to forget about that $100 bill. Eventually, you get to the point where you say, I'm not really all that broke. I still got that $100 bill in my pocket. Okay, so you're slowly changing the way you think. Okay, and then he said something else very important to me. He said, David, if you want money, you have to give it. That's where people have a lot of problems. He said, you have to give it. And then begin to say to yourself, money flows easily and effortlessly into my life. I got those three principles, and I didn't just, here's what too many people do. Too many people begin to question why it works. That's your problem. You're questioning why. You know what? When you're questioning why it works, you know all that is doubt. You just doubt it. You don't really believe it. There's no reason to question. I didn't do that. I just said, that's it. He told me what to do, and I'm going to do it. I started giving more.
More. When you said give it to what? Give it to who?
To
give it
something that is important, that you think is good.
I mean, donate.
Donate it, give it to whatever you think is good. If you see somebody that needs it, give them some. Everywhere you go, give a little bit. Don't be afraid to give. But don't give because you're waiting to get something. No, just give it. But every day I got up in the morning, first thing I started saying is that money flows easily and effortlessly into my life. What began to happen, I got to the point where I could imagine it. I could see just money flowing. And then there's a little place that I keep a little bit of money. And I just imagine it flowing in there, and I imagine it building up, the pile building bigger and bigger and bigger. And time went by. I'm not going to say how much time went by, but as time went by, that little bit that I had in there really started to grow. I mean, it just started growing and growing and growing, where I had first of all, I had $10, $15, and it got to the point where I was growing up to the 800, 900, 1,000.
You're talking about your little piggy bank at home.
That little pile
basically.
that I had, yeah. So it just continued to grow, and I started imagining my savings account. When I'd look at my bank account before, I'd see $15 or $20 in my bank account or savings account. I just started imagining money flowing into it. It's exactly what happened. Right. Money started from where? It just starts coming. And here's one thing. Another thing that people do make a huge mistake. They start, when you tell them these principles, first thing they start saying, well, I only earn this much. How can that happen? And I only work here, and I only work there. But see, these money's going to start flowing to you specifically. Something that you don't even know that is going to come to you will come to you, not to anybody else, not how somebody else earned it. Forget about how other people do. That's our problem. We think, well, he earns that because he works here and he makes that much money. Forget that. You're going to have something that's going to be drawn to you It's special for you. Just like what came to me was special for me, and what Bill said, was it not special for you, Bill? That you didn't even know existed, right?
I'll tell you, this is a funny thing. I got out of the Army in 1952.
Okay.
I could have filed for disability. I didn't even know it.
Oh, after you got out?
Yeah, I didn't know it. I found it out when I started practicing these principles.
So, like, 60 years later?
60 years later, the money was there all the time, but I didn't see it because I kept saying
You
I'm
mean
broke.
from the veterans you could have got
Yeah.
that? Oh, man.
From my veterans I could have got. I'm walking around thinking I'm broke. And I'm not broke.
And you could have used that money, huh?
I could have used that money all those years that I'm saying I'm broke. So when he told me to stop saying you're broke,
Suddenly this
then all
opened
of a
up
sudden
to you.
money started coming from where I kept, because I didn't think about where would it come from.
Right.
And I was home one day and the guy says, were you in the service? I said, yeah. He said, well, I just filed for my thing and everything, and I got my hearing and all this everything. Well, I was in the service too, and I did Morse code all 8 hours, and my ears were damaged back then. I knew they were damaged.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't know that they paid you anything for it. But I just figured this is hazards in the Army. That's what you get, broken arm or whatever it was, And then when I started practicing these principles, I found out that I could have been another almost $2,000 a month. I could have been receiving that.
Now we gotta get
And
this.
now I'm getting it. Now I'm good. Right?
Okay, now I want to get this straight, clear to the listeners out there. Now, some of them that are listening, everything goes, "Oh, that's why for him because he was a veteran."
That's true.
They're gonna say that. Okay, forget all that kind of thinking. There's something out there that is waiting for you to open your mind up to it. And I can't tell you what it is. I wish I could, but I can't. But if you practice these principles, whatever is going to be available to you, you're going to draw that person that's going to open your eyes or whatever. You're going to draw that thing or that idea is going to come to you specifically how you can have more abundance. So forget about Bill. What happened to Bill, that happened to him.
Right.
You have your thing that is waiting for you, but as long as you keep thinking limited, you will stay there.
Right. That's true.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. And you can take it to wherever you want to. It's the real truth. That's why I like the idea. Truth only show.
Right. Should we take a little...
Let's just roll right through. We already missed it.
Okay,
so,
let's go.
I like that idea that you mentioned, and you mentioned. I wish you guys can both maybe talk about it a little bit more. You said that you mentioned balancing your money coming in versus your money coming out, and then you mentioned keeping the $100 in your wallet. Could you go into that a little bit more? Because I find that pretty interesting. I don't know who wants to start off.
Well,
The idea of stopping yourself from changing your idea of yourself as I'm always broke to I always have a little bit of money in my pocket.
well, that's what the $100 bill is for. That's.
So you actually started doing that, keeping $100?
Yeah, I put $100 in my wallet, and at the time I felt like I couldn't afford to put $100 in there.
Right.
So immediately I started to see a little change in my thinking because I had that $100 bill, and I don't know. Again, I don't know. It doesn't matter the time, but eventually I noticed that I was getting by without spending that $100 bill.
And you just kept it.
I just kept it there. I kept
Okay.
it there for a long time.
Oh, Bill's showing me his wallet right now. He's got his 100 in there.
Bill's.
I got mine. right there, right there.
Hey, you know what?
And
I'm
if
never
Bill's
broke.
showing you for anybody that can
You
see
got
the
yours
show, I
too?
got mine right here, sitting right here too. Okay.
Okay.
Just to prove the point. But this is all of matter. See, it's not easy to change your thinking. It's difficult. This is not
Yeah.
an easy thing to do. So you need to find something that will slowly begin to get you to change the way you think about yourself.
Right.
That's what it is.
So you go from having I don't have 2 pennies to rub together to I always have $100 in my wallet.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Here, Bill gave some of his. I'll give you a little bit of mine. I spent And I mean, I'm serious. I spent 10 years of my life broke and miserable. And these were the years in my 40s and through my 40s, all through the 40s and 50s. I had a business, I lost my business, and I was broke for 10 years, okay? So I was desperate. I was tired of being broke. So I started searching. Remember, you've heard this before? Seek and ye shall find. There's a lot of truth to that. So I started slowly searching for something else because being broke wasn't any good. So I started searching. I continued to search and search. If you search for something, eventually you're going to find it. That's a fact. Because it took me, and forget about the time, okay? Because I was broke from my 40s, my 50s, and I began to search. And I can honestly say I discovered these principles, the idea of these principles when I was 54, 55 years old. So it took me 4 or 5 years of, remember I said everything's a process. 4 or 5 years went by, and I discovered and I learned that there was people teaching these principles. So I started taking them seriously. You know what I did compared to, I see a lot of other people that were joining me, that were there where I was learning. I took it seriously. In other words, people tell you what to do, and you analyze it and think about it.
And you say, will that work?
Well, does it work?
Or why would that work?
How can it work? And this, and it doesn't make sense, and that it just happens like that. I didn't do that. I just said, if this is what they say that it works, I'm just going to do it. So I just started right off the bat. I just started doing it, saying it to myself every day. Money flows easily and everything. My life is perfect. My life is great. Everything is wonderful in my life. I love my job. When I hated my job with a passion, I hated it. I just started saying, I love my job. I love it. And I just kept saying those things every day. Time went by. Everything changed. I mean, financially, everything changed. Let's put it this way. Once I really got into that thinking, I have never been broke again. No. And I've always had plenty to do what we really want to do. Plenty. I'm not talking about it. I'm a millionaire, because I'm not even talking about that. One day we'll get into becoming millionaires, but that's not what's drives me. That's not what motivates me, is being millions.
It sounds like the main difference from you is you went from, and you, Bill, you went from having the attitude of, I'm a broke person who's always broke, I always have enough money.
Right.
And that's the major shift. But I mean, I would think that anyone listening at home, if they could go through that shift, they would be how much % happier? They would be a lot happier if you just went from always being broke to always having enough money. Right. Is that similar? That's similar to what happened to you, right?
True. The idea is not to think about what you don't want. Right. If you don't want to be broke, you try to get that out of your mind. You think about what you want. And that's what you're creating, because your thoughts are always creating. Think about what you want. Don't spend a lot of time on thinking about what you do not want.
Right. Well, because now maybe we can kind of go back to what this topic was about.
Right.
The alpha and the omega. Everything in life is the alpha and the omega. Yeah. So in other words, going back to what this whole show was about, was the alpha is the thinking that is involved, and then you're going to create the form. The first is the thinking, and the last is the form. So think about your alpha and your omega. If you're thinking that you're limited, what are you experiencing? That's the alpha and the omega. Change the alpha and the omega changes.
Beautiful.
That's all we're saying. Change the alpha and the omega changes. And that is your true nature. Right. You cannot change that. That's something that you got to get clear in your minds. You cannot change your nature. What you choose to think about is what you are going to experience. That is just a fact. There's nothing we can do about it.
And everybody says that. Religion says it. Psychology says the same thing. Physics, if you study physics, it says the same thing. But all you have to do is just put it together and do it, which is difficult. But like I say, we've been tricked in the beginning. So we think that our good is coming from somewhere else. It might be luck. It might be, or he's just special, or he's
born special.
Yeah, he's that, or he's that. It's not true.
No.
Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but on the internet, there's a very big thing right now with people doing challenges. They do this challenge, that challenge, and it's a very social media kind of thing. And I think that we should start our own challenge. And I think we should do the $100 challenge and keep $100 in your back wallet for what? How long do you think? How long should the challenge be? Because that's part of it. Always, you got to do it for this many days and see if anything happens. What?
I would say, I mean, the minimum.
See
if you can do it for 2 months.
2 months. All right.
2 months.
Well, I happen to have $100 bill in my wallet right now. I'm going to try to keep it there for 2 months.
Okay.
What happens if you have to spend it? Or do you not? Or you try not to?
Well, no. Here. Let me make one thing clear. Remember, you can't just stick $100 and then wait for the magic to happen. No, it's not going to work that way because you're going to pull that $100 bill out and you're going to spend it.
Okay.
You got to put the $100 bill and put into your mind that you are wealthy, that money flows easily into my life. You got to be saying that to yourself if you want to experience it. There's more than just putting the $100 bill. It's a combination of all of those things together. Right. You got to begin to speak to yourself and say that things are great. Think financially, everything is good.
So it's a two-part thing.
It's a two-part. It's not
but
just
everything needs a catchy title, and the $100 challenge is catchy.
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
I've talked with a lot of rich people, and every one of them will tell you, I didn't know when I became rich.
Right. You don't really know.
They don't know.
What does that mean?
They're not thinking about being broke.
Right.
That's what it means.
Oh, so they didn't.
They didn't know that when they got rich because they always thought.
Oh, I see.
That they have rich, so that's what they created. So they didn't have to think about it. So when you put the $100 bills in your pocket, don't start thinking about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or if they don't think about it. Just say, I'm going to keep this forever.
Okay.
I want to have this $100 bill available for me forever, as long as I'm there.
Okay.
Right.
I like that.
Okay.
We're pretty much out of time. Thanks, Bill, for joining us once again.
Thank you very much, Bill.
And it was fun.
Please come back whenever you can. We're always here, so come join us. And if you'd like to go to thetruthonlyshow.com, check out some of our old episodes. Go there, truthonlyshow.com. If you want to hear my band, you go to thebellcityplayers.com, and that is my band, thebellcityplayers.com.
And I want to remind you to check out davidpaulmusic.com go to the calendar and for a fantastic night of entertainment. You will not be disappointed.
Loma
See you
Linda,
next week.
1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Call the dogs and put out the fire. This is Baxter Black on Monday here to start the week with a little
radio update starts now. A mass shooting at a Madden tournament. I'm Jeff Biggs, and we start with some breaking news, very tragic news out of Jacksonville, Florida. 4 people are dead and at least 10 injured, if not more, after a mass shooting today at a Madden tournament in Jacksonville. Week 3 of the NFL preseason concludes today with a pair of games. First up from Buffalo, a late afternoon affair between the Bills and the Bengals. Rookie Josh Allen looking to lock up the Bills' starting quarterback job.
I mean, it's crazy to think about, definitely. But I'm not going out there to try to prove why I'm the starter or whatever the case may be. I'm going out there to play football and move the chains, put points on the board, and help this offense in whatever way I can. This is an opportunity for me, and I'm not going to take it lightly. But at the same time, I'm here for whatever the team needs, and I'm just going to try to do my job.
Kickoff is at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and then tonight, preseason Sunday Night Football on NBC as the Cowboys host the Cardinals. We'll see if Cards rookie Josh Rosen is able to go. He's a game-time decision with a thumb injury. Jason Garrett and the Cowboys not expected to play most of their offensive starters. Sunday baseball is underway. One other NFL note real quickly. Former Bengal Pro Bowler Adam Pac-Man Jones is going to sign with the Broncos. All right, now on to baseball. The Boston Red Sox, best record in baseball, are trying to avoid getting swept at Tampa Bay. Right now they are down 6-0 in the top of the sixth. The A's are up 1-0 at Minnesota. The Indians, Cleveland Indians, also trying to avoid getting swept. They are down in Kansas City 1-0, and the Cubs are up in the Reds 3-0. Golf final round of the Northern Trust. Bryson DeChambeau is on the course now with a 5-shot lead at 17 under par. Tony Finau is at 12 under. Brooks Koepka at 11 under. I'm Jeff Biggs. This is NBC Sports Radio.
This is Dick from Carpet Masters. Carpet Masters has been serving the Inland Empire for over 60 years. We are locally owned and operated by the Stevens family. We not only clean carpet and furniture, we clean many loose rugs, including Oriental rugs. Oriental rugs are cleaned in our modern facility where the fringes are cleaned by hand, then hung in our modern facility to dry. We do not use steam cleaning to clean your fine furniture. Furniture is cleaned by hand using the same absorption cleaning used in the White House. Some furniture we bring into our plant to clean properly. We normally use 2 men on each cleaning job using the extraction method. There is nothing that will clean carpet better for our customers. Our job is to clean properly